Hi, I'm Natalie Hoffman with flyingfreenow.com, and today we're going to be talking about how abusive men pick their victims. When you hear the words emotional abuse, what comes to your mind? Most people have been programmed by our culture to believe certain things about emotional or psychological abuse, and most of these beliefs are myths. What kind of woman is the domestic abuse target? Here's the myth. The average person on the street thinks that an emotional abuse or domestic violence target is a pushover. She's spineless, weak, a coward, can't stand up for herself, doesn't handle her man the right way, has little self-esteem. The average religious person, if they believe she's a victim in the first place, which they usually don't, believes that if she married a guy with problems, she needs to hunker down and sleep in the bed she made for herself. I mean, how bad can it be? Here's the truth. The emotional abuse target can be anyone. She can be a business owner, an attorney, a professor, a doctor, an author, a homemaker, a company president, a police officer. And contrary to the opinions of those who don't understand how abuse works, she is not targeted because she can't stand up for herself and has low self-esteem. Abusive people target their targets for their strengths, and they have many. So we're going to talk about a few of the strengths that the emotionally abusive partner is looking for in an abuse target, and we're going to talk about why. Number one, she has the kind of character that puts the needs of others before her own. Another thing they're looking for is that when she makes a commitment, she sticks to it. She's faithful and trustworthy. Another thing that abusive people are looking for in a target is someone who takes responsibility for herself and those around her, someone who's a person of integrity. They're also looking for someone who's generous to a fault, someone who gives more than she takes and does it with pleasure. They're also looking for someone who's kind and compassionate, someone who has empathy that just oozes from their pores. They're also looking for someone who's intuitive and sensitive to the emotional environment around her, someone who picks up on tone and body language and adjusts her approach accordingly. They're also looking for someone who is forgiving. They need someone who's forgiving, right? Someone who will forgive and forgive and forgive without being asked. They want someone whose love is deep and wide. An abuser is also looking for someone who's patient and long-suffering, someone who will endure his attacks and believe in his potential as a human being. An abuser is also looking for someone who's courageous, who can survive the rejection of her love and the dehumanization of her spirit and still go on with him every day with hope. He's also looking for someone who is resourceful, someone who can take what she's given and multiply it, even though she is only offered in return criticism and rejection. And finally, they want to find someone who's not going to betray them, someone who is loyal and isn't going to desire revenge. All she wants is to be treated with honor as a human being, but they're not going to provide that for her. Now, this kind of woman, she sounds pretty amazing, right? And when she is paired together with an emotionally and spiritually healthy man, those two human beings can co-create an amazing, beautiful marriage. But what happens when an emotionally abusive partner, Don Hennessy calls it a psychophile in his book, How He Gets Into Her Head, which I highly recommend. What happens when someone like this targets this kind of woman? What is he looking for and why? So the average person on the street thinks that the domestic abuse victim is targeted because of the weaknesses listed under the first myth. And the average religious person believes that she hasn't been targeted at all. Nobody would be that mean. Instead, if she doesn't like her husband, she's got issues and she's going to need to learn how to pick up her cross and carry it. Religious culture teaches that to suffer as an abuse victim is a privilege and honor, and to give her help would only undermine God's sovereign work in her life. Plus, it would take some time and energy. And by golly, the suffering is for her, not them. They didn't marry a bad egg. Why should they suffer for her idiocy if she's even telling the truth? Humph. Here's the truth. The domestic abuse victim is targeted because of her strengths. And here's how it works. First, let's define Hennessy's psychophile term. I love that term. This term helps us see exactly what the intimate male abuser is actually doing behind the curtain. Here's what he says in his book, How He Gets Into Her Head. The word psychophile combines the root of psyche, meaning mind or spirit, and phile, which comes from the Greek word for friend. So the abuser's goal is to get into her mind, to befriend it, and to control her from there. Now, this is not difficult when you've got one, a shared bed. Intimate partner abuse is insidious. Two, a marital commitment. Three, a religious belief system. And four, all these beautiful character qualities that she has listed above that we've just gone over. Okay, so number one, the emotional abuser gets the victim to stop taking care of herself because she needs to put the needs of others before her own needs. And she typically does that. He can get her to dismiss her own human instinct to not only take care of others, but also to take care of herself. And if you add to this her religious community that is encouraging her to die to herself, now you've got a perfect petri dish for psychological abuse to thrive and grow. And the abuse victim's self-worth will slowly dissolve. Number two, he knows that she will stay committed to him no matter what. Her commitment to her word is like super glue that keeps her tied to her psychophile. He knows this and he picked her because of it. If you add to this a religious community that teaches her that divorce is the unforgivable sin and that will excommunicate anyone who would initiate divorce, and now you've got a very real prison from which there is no escape. Truly, the victim doesn't even consider this as an option until she is so scared for her physical or her emotional well-being that she takes that drastic step, fighting for her life against all of her core beliefs. Most religious victims in an abusive relationship will stay 2 to 3 decades before finally getting help and leaving. Not because they are weak-willed, but because their strength of perseverance is Herculean. She will almost always suffer from complex post-traumatic stress disorder as a result. Number three, the emotional abuser knows that she will shoulder the responsibility. Because she is so committed to taking personal responsibility, when he blames her for his own bad behaviors, she will accept that blame and work hard to do better next time in order to avoid the guilty and shameful emotions that follow an abusive incident. This is perfect for him. He gets away with anything and everything simply by shifting the responsibility over to her. He can control her actions once he controls how she defines his abuse of her. And when her religious community comes in and tells her to forgive and keep no record of wrongs, and as far as it is up to you, be at peace with all men, and your role is to build your husband up, and a good wife will a happy husband make. Well, now she's going to redouble her efforts to take responsibility for the well-being of this relationship, and she will slowly disappear. Number four, she gives her resources to her abuser. Because she is generous, she gives and gives of her resources, whatever they might be, believing that she is investing in the most worthwhile relationship that one can invest in on planet Earth. She will work hard at her career to bring in some monetary value. She will work hard at raising the children, taking care of their home, and spending prudently, No gift is too great in her mind. It is all a pleasure to give. And if she's a woman of faith, she's going to do it for the glory of God as well. She believes that even if it goes unnoticed by her husband or by everyone else, that God sees her efforts and she will reap a good harvest one day. Now, this works great for the abuser, who views her as his servant, created to make his life comfortable and happy. He targeted her for this reason. And her religious community agrees with the abuser by keeping the focus of her generosity disproportionately on her, since she is the active and willing partner. This is exactly what the abuser needs to continue harming her without any accountability or consequences. Number 5, the victim believes the best in everyone, including abusers. Her kindness and empathy work in his favor as well. Her default is to give others the benefit of the doubt, believing the best about their behaviors. So when her abuser treats her poorly, she feels it must be because of something sad and broken inside of him. And she desires with all of her heart to help him so that he can be all he was created to be. She sees herself as equipped by God to accomplish this goal, and she applies all of her compassion towards this task. Her religious community teaches her that this is the right thing to do. Turn the other cheek. Love covers a multitude of sins. Love will win the day. The psychophile grooms her to the place where he can offend and actually get the victim to feel sorry for him because of his offending, with the church's approval, of course. Number 6, he uses her intuition against her. The fact that she is intuitive actually makes it easy for an intimate partner to confuse and control her. And here's how this works. She skillfully picks up on all of his nonverbal cues that he gives to covertly control what she does or how she interprets her experience. Maybe it's a certain look that he gives her, or an edge in his voice, or the way he looks past her when she talks. These are the subtle, imperceptible things that other people can't see, but that she can. This helps her navigate potential ugly situations, or it enables her to fall into them, whichever the psychophile wants for her to do at any given time. The fact that his words and his actions don't match make this experience all the more confusing, throwing the victim into the depths of self-doubt. Now, her religious community will tell her that she can't trust her heart. It is deceitful above all things. They tell her, you're just making assumptions. And this plays into her abuser's narrative. Their voices now are also deeply implanted within her psyche, and she is unable to tell right from wrong when it comes to her own experiences. Number 7, she forgives the abusive behavior. As part of her commitment to the marriage, she forgives over and over again, even when her abuser isn't sorry and doesn't ask. Her religious community tells her that forgiveness includes allowing her abuser complete and total access to her body, and her soul at all times. It is her duty as a wife, and she takes it seriously. As a result, there is never any sowing and reaping. Her abuser is able to sow destruction in their relationship and in her personhood without any accountability. And she continues to forgive him for the ways he causes her pain, thereby enabling the abuse cycle to continue unabated. Number 8, she continues to endure the abusive behavior and sacrifice. She will endure the abuse to the point of falling apart emotionally and physically. She willingly sacrifices, believing that it is worth it if he will just one day see what he is doing and stop, if he will one day become the good man that she believes he can be. And her religious community teaches her that suffering is God's will for her, and they do nothing to offer relief or practical help, because if they did, that would mean circumventing God's plan of suffering for her life. Now, this also plays beautifully into the psychophile's agenda to keep her doing what he wants her to do, all in the name of God, the ultimate spiritual abuse. Number 9, she stays strong and tries to meet his unrealistic expectations. Her courage in the face of daily abuse, both covert abuse and overt abuse, is incredible. This inner strength is exploited by her abuser, who is both jealous of her strength and desirous of using it against her. When necessary, he will praise her for it, getting her to believe that she must keep it up to win his admiration as well as to survive. Her religious community has zero comprehension of her strength, nor do they see anything of which to praise and encourage her. To them, she's just another woman, merely doing her duty before God and not really even doing it well enough to keep her husband happy. Number 10, she contributes financially. The abuse target is often very good at coming up with creative ways to either make money or make ends meet. Her contributions are minimized and even circumvented by her abuser, who will insist that the extra resources are placed into his capable control. She willingly, at first, agrees to this, feeling that she must trust him as her intimate partner. And yet, she also feels like a slave or a child rather than an equal partner, contributing and controlling equally. When she does finally take responsibility for the resources that she's generating, she will be attacked and blamed as a selfish, money-hungry female. She'll struggle with feelings of guilt and shame and confusion as she hears his voice in her head, defining who she is and assigning all the wrong motives to her resourcefulness and hard work. Number 11, she doesn't seek help for the abusive behavior. She's hesitant to get help for many reasons. Number 1, the emotional abuser is in her head, telling her that it's all her fault. And she believes that this might be true, that if she would have just tried harder or been different or responded differently, she could have made things better. And her religious community will tell her the same thing. She knows that if she tries to explain her experience, the tide of that belief is too powerful to go up against. But also, she really has no desire to betray or expose her partner. I mean, her heart is for him. Her motive is to help him so they can have an intimate relationship that is mutually satisfying. Against all the evidence to the contrary, she continues to believe that this is possible. And her first attempts at getting help are simply for the sole purpose of achieving this end. However, most churches and Bible counselors will not be able to understand her or her problem. The voice of the abuser is in their head too. In fact, they feed off of one another and they abuse the woman together. Let's talk about why the domestic abuse target struggles with going from victim to survivor. Here's the myth. The average person on the street believes that the domestic abuse target is stupid for not seeing that she's a target and taking steps to get out of her abusive situation. Of course, the average religious person believes that she isn't a domestic abuse target to begin with. They believe that she's just a good girl doing her Christian duty as a female human. Here's the truth. He has groomed and offended and groomed and offended her over and over and over again throughout the course of a long relationship. He is in her head now. She is brainwashed into believing his messages, and she no longer sees reality for what it is when it comes to her own experience. And this is the crux of intimate partner abuse. And this is also why she stays. But this is not the end of the story. The same strengths that made you an abuse target are going to set you free. The very strengths that your intimate abuser chose you for are not only the strengths that keep you in that relationship, they are also the strengths that will set you free. Using those strengths to get free from the devastation of an abusive relationship is confusing and painful for an average non-religious woman. But women of faith endure even deeper confusion and pain as they navigate the twisted webs of half-truths and bad theology to find true freedom in Jesus Christ. The ones who fly free eventually have a strong support system built with safe and spirit-filled people who know exactly where they've been because they've been there too. I have a program called the Flying Free Sisterhood Education and Support Program. It is a comprehensive and proven lifeline for Christian women in destructive relationships. You can learn more by going to joinflyingfree.com. If you believe you may be in a destructive marriage or relationship, you can find out how to get the help that you desperately need by going to flyingfreenow.com. Until next time, fly free.